going on, everybody? Got an exciting one here. We've got the single guy, Mr. Lloyd. Um, he's been a dating coach for years. I know way back when I was getting back into dating after a pretty bad relationship back in like 2017. Um, I was watching a lot of his videos, and it was like every single week, whenever he was releasing something, and it was those reminders that gave me the confidence to get back out there, which was absolutely awesome. But I'll let him introduce himself. So go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, man. 2017. That's when I just started. So you're an OG, man. I appreciate the support. Yeah. I don't think anybody was watching me at that point in time. I was like, I had like maybe 100 subscribers or something at that point. But dude, yeah, that's awesome. Happy I could help you out. So yeah, you want me to just like kind of walk through my story and how I got into all of this?
Yeah. Like how did you mean the single guy, great branding, but are you a single guy? Like
no, I'm actually not single. I have a girlfriend. I've had a girlfriend for the past like 2.5 years. So, I mean, when I first started it, I was single. I was very happy to be single. And if I'm single again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you're a guy who's kind of on their purpose, on their mission. I think it's actually very powerful to be single. You have a lot of options. You're not sacrificing your freedom. There's a lot of great things about it. There's also benefits to being in a relationship too, if it's the right one. So, when I first started this, dude, I was like, so let me just tell you a little bit about what I do. So I use practical advice to help guys who are professional, kind of logical minded to do better with women. Whether you're a guy who has no experience or whether you're a guy who has a ton of experience, but maybe you're not dating the right kinds of women for yourself. Maybe you want to like level up your dating life, get higher quality women, improve your mental confidence, whatever it is, those kinds of things. But I specialize with helping guys who are like practical, logical, those kinds of characters who, traditionally they have not been helped out with dating advice. They have actually, a lot of the advice actually is very confusing to them. Like the just be yourself, or, you got to learn to love yourself first and then everything will just magically work out. Those kinds of advices that they always give you. Not super helpful for those kinds of guys because it doesn't actually tell you what to do. So, yeah, I got into this, from a long history of just kind of like pain with women, or pain with me being, not able to make friends. And even in high school, I remember I used to just kind of look at the kids in there and I'd be like, how are these, like, why is this guy popular, or why do people like this guy? And I didn't really have an answer for that at that point in time. It was a question that I was like really trying to figure out. And, the usual answers that I gave that people were telling me, like looks or, just having money or whatever, they really didn't hold up. They really didn't hold up. I found that the guys, they were doing other things besides that to be successful. So, all through college, I was there would be girls that I liked. I was kind of a nerdy kid studying physics. So the training that I was getting was learning how to like break down these complex mathematical problems to their fundamental and most simple pieces. And then I was like, you know what, like this kind of format, I'd like to apply to dating, or I'd like to apply to social interaction. Social interaction is much more complicated. We're dealing with biological beings that, have a bunch of things going on in their body, that have a bunch of different, wants, needs, and things like that. And so it's not a complete science. And what I found is that, when people were going about this, you would ask a guy who was really good and he would give you some like, oh, you just got to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, okay, that works for him, but it didn't work for me. And so it took me a while before, just trying things, learning from other dating coaches. At the time, there was only pickup coaches. And I felt like a lot of what they were teaching was, some of it was good, but some of it was just making guys weirder, and I felt like that was not what I wanted to put out there in the world. The first time I ever saw somebody do something that was like close to what I thought that it should be was, actually a guy named Tucker Max. I don't know if you know who he is. He wrote the book, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. He did like a dating program where he wrote a book about it. And it was kind of like it kind of covered the whole dating process. And it wasn't super, he actually tried to distance himself from like the pickup and the partying and all that stuff that he did in the past. So I felt like he went a little too hard to the other side. But I felt like it was, if he had actually made it for lack of a better term, if he actually made it good, if he actually put in an effort on it, because I felt like he kind of phoned it in at some points, then I think it could have been amazing. So I wanted my program to embody that. And so when I first started posting videos, that was the goal. The goal was to create an all encompassing practical advice for guys, if you like literally didn't understand social interaction, like step by step, like these are the basic points and fundamentals. And it mirrored my own transition from, a guy who like couldn't understand why none of the girls that he was interested in were all going for my friends, or they were, not interested in me. They were just interested in other guys or guys that I hated. It was a very big learning experience for me, a very painful one, like I had a lot of rejections, like heartbreak and stuff like that. But coming through all of that and just really persevering through, going out a lot, reading every piece of literature that I could find, for years. And, my own transformation was, incredible. I first started out just wanting to get laid, and I slept with, as many women as I possibly could. And then during that period, I learned how to like master the initial attraction phase, talking to people and all that stuff. And then after that, I started to, favor more like longer term kinds of things, more solid connections, building social circles, those kinds of things. And so when I did all of that, the next step was, getting into a relationship that was fulfilling. And so, that was the final stage that I've been at. And there might be other stages that I go on my journey, but, for now, that's where I'm at. And, I felt like, I'd mastered the entire progression. And so now my content encompasses like all of the steps. Like literally, if you're a guy who doesn't know anything about dating and you follow these steps, you're going to be successful. So it took me a while. It was a long journey, but I'm very satisfied with the knowledge that I've accrued as a result.
No, that's fantastic. I love how you look at it like a physics problem, as you said, and you broke it all the way down to the basics, because some of the stuff, like even for me, when I'm working with guys, I got to constantly remind myself that everybody's at a different stage, and sometimes they need the absolute basics, that even more basic than you even think of, because you're way past that. But sometimes people just need that.
Yeah, so absolutely.
That's great, because I know. And so, how exactly are you putting stuff out there right now? Because I know you did a lot of YouTube videos, but it looks like it dwindled down more, and you have more short form content. Or
so the YouTube stuff's going to be coming back. I've been focusing a lot on Instagram, so I grew my channel up to like 160,000 subscribers or something like that. And I wanted to grow on Instagram as well too. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to, grow it really quickly. And within a year, I got 100,000. I wasn't even posting that like flashy stuff. Like I didn't have that many girls on there or anything. It was like just me talking. It was just me, giving good advice, and a lot of people connected with it. So, I'm going to have more stuff coming in. I'm probably going to bring girls on there and like on my YouTube channel as well too. And just get more of a dialogue going. But I've been on Instagram a lot. So the plan is to get big on each of the different platforms. I'll go back on YouTube, and LinkedIn will probably be the next one that I do.
Cool. Yeah. And then you've released courses and stuff before, right?
Yeah. So I released this course called the Practical Approaching System. It was a pretty badass course. I basically, during the pandemic, I knew I wanted to release the Practical Approaching course, but like the lockdowns had just happened. Like LA was, I was in LA at the time, and there was the lockdown happening. So like everybody's walking around wearing masks, and I was like, oh God, like I haven't, approached a girl in 6 months because we've all been locked indoors. I really want to film this product now. And I was like, no, I'm still going to do it. So I was walking around on the beach, and I had this guy film me for like 3 or 4 days. And the first day you could tell, like, I'm nervous, man. Like I haven't talked to a girl for a while. And like just seeing people walking around with masks, you literally have bulletins that are telling you don't talk to people or socialize. Right. And, and I'm like, I'm going to ignore all of this, and I'm going to see if I could pick up some chicks on the beach and take them back to my hotel room later that night. And so the first day, it was like a Friday thing. I go out, and I'm like, I'm pretty nervous. So I was like, what can I do? This is what I always tell my clients. If you can do something, inch your way into the direction that you're trying to get to, then do it. You don't want to start with like if you see a gorgeous woman, don't think to yourself, okay, how do I get this girl to like me and go on a date with me and then eventually like sleep with me and become my girlfriend? That's way too far in the future, bro. Like you don't have any idea if she's even ready for a conversation yet. So just focus on that. So I knew the thing that I could do was I could say hi to people and just kind of break the ice. when you first start going out, it's not about anybody else but yourself. You want to get yourself into the energy state that's going to make you feel good enough to walk up to somebody. Okay. So I knew I wasn't there yet. So what I did was I was like, all right, I'm just going to say hi to like 50 people on the beach. So I walked around and I was like, hey, how's it going? Hey, how you doing? Hey, nice day. Good to meet you. And I just said hi to 50 people. Now, of those 50 people, maybe like 14 or 15 of them said hi back to me. And of those 15 people, maybe 5 or 7 of them actually looked up and said hi to me. And some of them even smiled. So I focused on those positive interactions that I got. And it was actually crazy because one of the people who I said hi to, she kind of was like, hey, she just biked away. She actually ended up opening me later. She was having trouble with her bike lock, and she could have asked anybody. There was like tons of people around, but she asked me. So it's like, even just by saying hi, you can give yourself an opportunity to talk to somebody. So that's an important thing that I go over in the program there, is that like, if you can't have a full blown conversation with somebody and like ask them out and pick them up, don't worry about that. Just go say hi. So I said hi. And then after the first day, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better. I'm going to try and have conversations. And I had conversations and they were awful. So the next day I went out and I was like, okay, I'm going to, I feel a little bit better. You know the concept of social momentum, right? You guys know what that is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course you do. So I built up a little bit of social momentum the second day. So I was feeling a little better to talk to people, but I was still nervous. So I started out by saying hi to like 20 people. Then after the 20 people, I started, talking and chatting. And then, in the course of about 2 hours, I got, like 5 or 6 phone numbers. And then I got an instant date with this one woman who was, very cute. She's awesome. And we went on just like a little mini date. And, I had to cut it short because I had a guy filming, and I was paying him a lot of money to film me. So I was like, all right, I could spend the rest of the day talking to her, or, I could actually get my money's worth from this guy. So I ended it a little bit early. We exchanged phone numbers, and I actually ended up being on her podcast later that week. It was kind of funny. I had to leave LA, so we couldn't meet up in person, but I still went on her podcast. And then, so that was the second day. The third day was the final day. It was a Sunday. And I was like, you know what? I'm a little tired because we had gone out 2 days in a row and, for a few hours. And I was like, but I feel a lot better. And so sometimes when you feel tired, a lot of the times it's a mental thing. I always say this when guys are telling me that they're too tired to go out, or they're too tired to make an approach or whatever. I'm like, hey man, have you ever played video games? And they're like, yes. I'm like, well, what kind of video games have you played? They go, well, played Warcraft or Call of Duty or whatever it is. I'm like, what's the longest you've ever played one of those video games? And they're like, oh, dude, like I could play that game for like 20 hours straight, or like a whole day, as long as I get food and I can go to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, perfect. So you're telling me that for a full day, you are focused on doing something and trying to shoot people or whatever it is. And you're telling me that, you missed an hour or 2 of sleep and you're too tired to walk up and have a 10-minute conversation. Okay, clearly it's a mental thing there, okay? Because our mind actually has unlimited energy. We can keep going for forever. It's our body that can get tired, but what happens is that it's not exciting to us. Okay, with a video game, you're being rewarded with dopamine, and as a result, you're able to keep going. So really, when guys tell me this, it's usually like a mental thing that they're trying to get through. So the last day I was a little tired, but I was able to push through it mentally. I during that period, I got around 5 or 6 phone numbers. Okay. And of those phone numbers that I got 3 of the girls to join. I got 4 of the girls to join us for dinner. 2 of the girls were actually models that, like, I'm talking like magazine cover models, very gorgeous women. And then there was this other spiritual girl who was like, I thought she was even more gorgeous than the models. So I'm at this dinner with me and my camera guy. Pretty badass dinner, right? And then those girls came back to my hotel room later, and we all hung out. It was all a great time. And some of the other girls that I talked to came over. So it was like 9 women and me and my camera guy hanging out with these girls at a hotel room. And when I had started out that day, I was just walking on the beach by myself. I was literally at the same level as those homeless people you see on Skid Row, right? But the things that I did were different than those guys. And as a result, I ended up with, a bunch of ladies back in my place, and I ended up getting laid and all that stuff, and still have numbers from those girls. I still talk to some of them.
You said there were 9 girls. Did you have a tensome?
No. I didn't have sex with all of them. No.
Casual tensome.
So anyway, now it wasn't like we were hanging out, we were having a good time, and then later on, a couple of them left, and like there's only like 3 girls left or something, and that's when I got laid. So that was the entire weekend, and I filmed the whole thing. Didn't film the sex or any of that. That's all private. None of the we have the eyes blurred out too, so keep the privacy of the women there as well as we can. But you see the progression of how when you go out, you're able to actually create a result. I mean, dude, I didn't know anyone in LA at that point. I mean, I knew people in LA, but I didn't use them. I went out just basically like a homeless person, like how many people can I talk to? Can I get this going? And the answer, of course, was yes, but I progressed it gradually. I didn't go in thinking like, I got to bring 9. If you had told me, hey, by the end of this, you got to bring 9 women back to your hotel room or this is going to be a failure, I would have been like, oh, dude, there's no way I can do that. I haven't talked to a girl in 6 months. I've been locked indoors all day. So you have to start gradually and work your way up through systems and a practical approach that really works. But nobody ever breaks it down like that. They just think, oh, go do it. Or, you get a little woo woo with some of the pickup stuff that I was listening to back in the day where, it was, sometimes you have a 20-minute video and you're like, what did I just watch? I wanted to break it down so people knew exactly what to do, when they were going through it. And this gives you the opportunity to really show your personality too, as well. It's not like you're just following a system and you're becoming a robot. You're doing something that allows you to become your best self. Right.
And question on that. So for the people watching, like you got 6 numbers, right? How many approaches did you do? Because I think for some guys watching, they might be like, dude, that's so sick. Like, I'd love to do that, but there's no way I can get 9 girls or that seems too high out of reach. So how many of those numbers that and people that you talked to were rejections?
Sure. So a couple ways that I think about it is I don't think of, if a woman doesn't want to talk to me, I do not consider it a rejection. That's not what I internalize in my head, because she's not rejecting me. She's just, she might be busy, she might be waiting for a friend and she has to leave pretty soon. Or maybe she's just in a bad mood that day. You never know. She's not she's very often, the woman will not be rejecting you if she rejects you right away. She's just like, no more dudes or whatever, it's just like the 9th guy that's come up to her and she's sick of it. So it has nothing to do with you. Now, I will say that my rate of success was generally a lot higher than most guys. So I would say I approached around 12 different groups of women, and around half of them gave me their phone number. Maybe a little bit less than half. Maybe it was around 14 or 15. Okay, so that's actually a pretty high rate for anyone who goes out and tries this sort of stuff. Like most of the women that you talk to are not going to be ready to give you their phone number, if you're just like a random guy. So why was it so high? It's high for a couple of reasons, because I know what to look for. I didn't approach women that were doing things like, if a woman had her cap on and her headphones in and she was running, I didn't stop her, because that's a low percentage. If I saw a group of women that were huddled together and they were very into the conversation that they're having, didn't approach them. Okay. I approached women where their body language was open. I approached women that, they would kind of like say something and then they kind of look around for a little bit. I approached those kinds of women, and there were some women that were giving me looks, but it wasn't very many. The vast majority of the women that I approached did not look at me and smile before, but like that happens a lot more often than guys like to think. If you go out and you have an eye for it, like you can see what kinds of women are giving you the eye. Women are much more observant about this than men are. Men are kind of oblivious. We're very focused and we can't multitask. So, like we have trouble doing that. So I always, encourage guys to really take a look at their environment, become more observant. So I would say around 14 sets. And the ones that I approached, I knew that they were open for a conversation, at least. Didn't know if they were open with a conversation for me. I might not be their type. I might not be, I didn't know if they had a boyfriend or whatever. Like there was a lot of things going on. So that was one reason. The other reason was that I was on Venice Beach. Venice Beach is like, everyone's hanging out. Like it's a little bit more of a social vibe to it. Not everyone's going out and picking up women like I was. Like I'd say 99% of the people there weren't doing that. But it's a little bit more open. So pick an environment where people are hanging out and they're not like, busily rushing to their work or whatever, which, is going to make it harder. And the other thing too, is that when I ask for the phone number, I don't ask typically. I bring up something where a phone number would be necessary to exchange. So I'll give you an example. I would say of the 6 phone numbers I got, like 4 of them asked for my number. All right. And then I was like, no, why don't I get yours instead? You don't want to give your phone number out because women will mess it up. It's not, they just, if you give out your phone number, they'll let it, even if they like you, dude, they'll just let it sit and they won't text you because they're not, they haven't been taught to pursue. So, yeah, I made sure that they were ready for a conversation. I made sure that the environment was good. And then I also seeded it so it made sense for us to get the phone number in the future. So an example of this could be like, I always talk about what I'm doing and then I ask what they're doing. And if the conversation goes something like this, like, yeah, I'm having a dinner later with some friends. We're probably going to have a kickback in my hotel room. What are you up to later? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not really doing much. And I'm like, well, cool. If you want to join us for dinner, we're having seafood. It's going to be great. And she's like, wow, that actually sounds like, it might be cool. I think I might be busy, but, let me get your phone number and I'll text you. And then at that point I say, all right, cool. Well, here's my phone number. And then I get their phone and I text myself. So I have their phone number. Now I have the power. And then we set it up, like it was like, even to the 2 models that I met, they actually messaged me first. I was going to message them about dinner and they messaged me first and they're very excited to join, There was a little bit of the lockdowns, although they hurt me at the beginning, they actually helped me because there wasn't a lot of things open at that time. So people were looking for something fun to do.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I love that. I also love how you're saying you don't think of it as a rejection. There are so many factors with it, and I think guys really get tripped up, especially when they go out to start doing some approaches, like maybe their first of the day, and the first of the day might be a blowout, and then they get so down on themselves that they just quit. They don't want to do anything else, and they just they drop it.
100%.
So
Yeah,
that's great, and I love what you're saying with the open body language.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to identify that, your success rate goes way up, and it's
absolutely.
time.
Yeah, and then you don't feel as bad about it, like the guys that would go out. I was talking to one guy who was thinking about getting coaching with me, and he was like, I can get results pretty well. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, tell me how you get results. He's like, well, for every 50 women I approach, I usually get 1 phone number. And for every 100 I approach, I usually get a phone number and a date. And I think I can just, go at that rate and I'll be good to go. And I'm like, dude, that's terrible.
So bad.
That sounds awful, dude. Like, change your approach. Anyway.
Yeah, that's good. That's really solid advice there. Do you do anything with dating apps? Because I know, like, with lockdowns, you would think that a lot of people would resort to dating apps. Not a lot of people were going out and doing cold approach like you were doing.
Yeah. So I do a lot with dating apps now. Just it's the name of the game now these days. Like half of all relationships are getting started from the app. So, or online sources. So, it makes sense that we have to focus on it. I'm much more meticulous about the data that I think than a lot of other people are. I use resources to see what actual, what these photos are actually scoring. And I know what kind of photos score high, and even a guy who, doesn't think they're very attractive, like, you can have a really great looking photo. And even guys who are good looking, because their photos are so terrible, they don't really look attractive in their photos. And so I really emphasize, taking a good photo, and using data to make sure that you're crafting the best profile. And then on top of that, like, you can have 5 really great looking photos, but if they're all model shots, that's not really sending the right message to the people that you're trying to match with. So those can get docked a little bit. So yeah, it's definitely a game. And, although people have their preferences and they have their types, we are living beings. And if you apply like some evolutionary psychology to it, you can get a great result.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Joel, do you have any other questions on the top of your list?
Yeah, I mean, great stuff so far. I feel like I'm getting a free coaching lesson here. So appreciate it.
Man. There's plenty more to it, but I just hopefully you guys get an idea about kind of the stuff that my approach, at least.
Definitely. And I like that you say, like, some of the girls that they weren't giving you IOIs, right? And that's something I've definitely struggled with, is that I'm like, if they're not smiling at me, they're not interested, right? And a lot of guys in the pickup space, they do teach that, like, look for the choosing signals. but all those girls gave you no choosing signals, and then you're having to tense them. So it's like
I did not have a
like,
tense. Let me make that perfectly clear. I only had sex
we're
with
sticking
one of the
with
women.
that story.
But it wasn't, you know, when I was there, that was very obvious that most of them were attracted to me. You know, that's why they showed up in the first place. It was just like, you know, that would have been tough to orchestrate. If I had done that, that would have been the most badass thing ever. Not this time, maybe later. But yeah, so like let's talk about choosing signals for a little bit, dude. So like guys will go out and they'll be like, I don't get any choosing signals. And I find that that's not actually true. Even if a woman's kind of just like got her body language open, or maybe she's like hanging out nearby you, like that's a choosing signal. You know, if in doubt, I always recommend assuming the attraction. So there's a study that was done. They always do these studies in colleges, by the way, which I find annoying because it's like a small sample size and it's a select kind of people. Like not everyone's trying to, you know, attract 18 to 20-year-olds, but they did it in a college. So in the college, what they did was they had two people talk to each other, a man and a woman, and they would have them rate how interested they were into the man or the woman later on. And so the women would write down how interested they were in the guy, and the guy would write down how interested they thought the woman was in them. Almost always the guy's scores were higher than the woman's scores. Now, the evolutionary psychologists looked at this and they said, well, guys are overestimating how interested the woman is. And I don't know about that. I don't know. I think I think both men and women lie. Women will downplay how interested they are in a guy. There's no advantage to a woman saying that she's really interested in a guy. No advantage. There's a lot of disadvantages to her revealing how into a guy she is. So I think women are always going to err on the side of, oh, I'm not interested in him. I mean, how many women say that when like, oh, I'm not talking to my ex. I hate that guy. And next week, you know, or that very night, she's having sex with him, right? Like, yeah, women try and keep their interest. They try and keep it hidden a lot of times. And guys, we tend to overestimate, oh yeah, she's into me, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting about the study is that even though there was a discrepancy in the answers, the guys where the highest discrepancy was, meaning they overestimated the most how interested the woman was in them, they actually performed the best. They got the highest scores. So what that means is that regardless of whatever the truth is, dude, always err on the side of, yeah, she's into me. Now, just because someone's interested in you doesn't mean that you can start touching her and like, you know, grabbing her and pulling her back to your place. That, you know, even if someone's interested in you, you still have to be respectful. So I always err on the side of assuming the attraction. So if I see someone who is like kind of just hanging out and she's looking around, I assume she wants me to talk to her. I know it sounds kind of arrogant, but when you have that kind of mentality, like you're going to perform a lot better. And I'm all about performance. And so if you're a guy who doubts yourself, who wants to be sure that she's interested in you and wants to wait for a secure IOI before you walk up, you're going to be waiting a long time. So I assume the attraction. If you're not sure if there's something there, it doesn't hurt to say hi. And that's how I've always viewed it. Is I don't view it as like, hey, I'm going to walk up and try and pick this person up. I'm going to walk up and have a conversation with her and see where she's at. And then after that, if things are going well, then, you know, I'll progress it to something where maybe we can hang out at some point.
That's great. That's love
great,
that.
man. Yeah.
I love that, working on that confidence and assuming the attraction. So
yeah, it's super powerful.
It's great. So for a guy who may not have that type of confidence yet, what types of things would you tell him to start to how to start to develop that, other than just go out there and assume the attraction?
Sure. So
yeah.
The just be confident advice. Yeah, I hate that advice. So I've broken it down step by step. So, I mean, what do you guys think confidence is? The definition of it?
Trust.
What was
trust
that?
in yourself.
Yeah, like it's actually confidence comes from the Latin root or word confidere, which means to trust. So the original origin is trust.
Dude, I'm so glad I asked that question, Joel. You gave me an awesome definition. Yeah, it's trusting yourself. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay, gotcha. So for me, confidence, the trust that you gain is through demonstrated performance. So I say that I'm going to do something and then I do it. If you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, then you get less confident from it. Okay. So that's why it's always important to write down your small wins progressively over time and give yourself things that are actually achievable. So I'm not into the whole, like, you know, procrastinate. And then like one day you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to a bunch of different women. that's actually not great for your confidence. What's better for your confidence is actually what I did during the practical approaching system, which is I started from an area that I knew I could achieve. I knew I could say hi to people, and I went out there and I did it. Right. If I had been like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to try and pick up women now, I would have walked up to a bunch of women, done horrible because my game was awful at that point. I hadn't warmed up yet. And I would have failed, and I would have been less confident the next day. But with each individual step, I gave myself an achievable goal. And then every single time it was a win. And so I gained confidence as time went on, and I built up social momentum. The problem with a lot of guys is that, like, okay, they see a pretty girl and they walk up and they talk to her for a little bit. And maybe she's like, maybe gives them a quick conversation or whatever. And then she leaves and they're like, oh, cool. But like, she didn't like me, or, I didn't get the phone number, so I failed. What you're telling yourself is you're telling yourself you're a failure. That doesn't build confidence. If your goal was to just walk up and see if she was cool, and you walked up and you found that out, or you found out she wasn't cool, you achieved your goal. You gain confidence from that. So, I give myself things that are achievable, and I build confidence from that. Now, you want to go up progressively so you can actually gain confidence. It's the equivalent of like, hey, I want to get better at basketball. Why don't I train with NBA players? Dude, you're not going to gain confidence training with NBA players. You're going to get smashed, dude. And then when you go to play basketball, like, you're going to think you suck. But like, play with people that are more at your level first, and then work your way up, So like, you gain confidence from demonstrated performance. And I'm not a big fan of like throwing guys into the deep end. And sometimes that helps because like, they just get when you get rejected a lot, you're like, it's not that big of a deal. So you can actually gain confidence from that. But, I find that there are other guys that will go into that, and then they'll get rejected a few times, and then they'll never do it again. They're done, and so I for those guys, I want something that works for everybody. And for those guys, even for the guys that get more confidence from rejection, gradually working your way up is actually good for them too. Works as well.
I really like that, man. And, going off that, like, yesterday was a great example. Like, I went out, I did approaches, and I started with that mindset. Like, I got to get numbers, I got to get dates, I got to get the lay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And each approach was pretty bad. And by the end of the day, when I went and played hoops, ironically, and I had been talking to people all day. We were talking to people in the pickup. And so I was talking to a girl after the game, and I was just so much more relaxed, and I wasn't like trying to get her number. I wasn't trying to get anything from her because I had already talked to so many people throughout the day. So, that's a great advice there, just to start small. And Huds and I even talked about that the other day, like the importance of going and warming up and just saying hi to random people that you don't think are super attractive or you don't want to have sex with, because it's just going to get that awkwardness out of the way.
Yeah, 100%.
People. Yep.
100%. I love that. Yeah. I like saying hi to people, making an effort. It's even in your everyday life too. You can make an effort with, like, instead of going to get your coffee and having your head down and listening to music or whatever, say hi to the clerk behind the counter, ask her how her day's going. How many people ask her that? Like, it's really just making an effort for people. And what is startling about this is that when you start to make an effort at first, it feels like work, and it feels like a chore, and it feels like you're not getting a whole lot back. But then as you build up social momentum, you actually feel better. You actually get happier. I mean, you look at the characteristics of a happy person. A happy person's talking to people. A happy person's smiling. A happy person's happy to have a conversation. A depressed person, a person who's, angry or frustrated, they're not like that. They're low energy, and or maybe anger could be high energy, but high energy anger is like, you want to get away from people. So, do the things that are going to make you happy. And a lot of times that actually gives you results with women. It's crazy.
That's great. I love that. Just talking to everybody, you never know too, just being a happy, jovial person, all types of experiences. I mean, I was mentioning when we had our show last Thursday, I think it was, I'm talking about when I was down in Baltimore, just randomly meeting somebody, and then we get to go on their yacht and got free drinks just by.
You went on a yacht in Baltimore?
Yeah. I know that sounds so backwards.
How was that?
It was cool. It was a really nice boat. And I don't know, it wasn't even in like the yacht club area. I think they were kind of like showing it off. and trying to. They were actually like trying to attract girls to come on. So there were some other girls that were there, but I just was polite, whatever, having fun, goofing around, and they invited us on, and we got free drinks and got to party with everybody. It was a great time.
Nice,
But,
man. That's the first yacht party I've ever heard about in Baltimore, man. You're breaking waves. That's great.
You don't really think yachts when you think.
You don't really think yachts when you go to Baltimore, man.
But yeah, it's cool, and building that social momentum. Like I had already been building it up because this was like later in the night that I ran into these people and did the whole yacht thing. But just building it up and just like talking to most random people. Like my girlfriend hates it because we'll be like going somewhere or trying to do something, and I'll just like disappear to go talk to somebody random about whatever. But I don't know. I'm like kind of ADD when it comes to everything, but I love experience and I love learning about people. And you never know what you're going to find out. And it's just constantly keeping that social momentum. It makes you happier as well.
Yeah. And you're never going to, I mean, your girlfriend can get irritated about it. I mean, mine does too, but like she's never going to leave you over that. You're actually making yourself more attractive by doing that. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's annoying. Like I wish women weren't attracted to him, you know, because then I wouldn't have to worry. But it's like that's the reason why you're there in the first place, though, right? So you're never going to lose him over that. But yeah, maybe she doesn't feel included or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's not something that I would worry about in a relationship.
Cool.
How'd you get into dating coaching, Huds?
Oh, so I got into it because let me think how it really kind of progressed. So
how long have you been doing it for?
So I've been doing it since 2020. So it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I started taking these dating courses, really not like because I was actually in a relationship at that time. So I was
the same one that you're in now?
No, it was different.
Okay, a different one. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So I wanted to keep my skills sharp because I kind of saw the writing on the walls with my relationship. I knew it was gonna end at some point. So I wanted to keep my skills sharp, and through these different courses and groups that I became a part of, like I realized how many guys out there have no idea what they're doing. And then I also saw how much bad advice is being given. I also I'd seen a lot of these coaches out there. They kind of word vomit enough to keep you in a spinning loop and never get you out of it. And that's why it's so great, like what you're talking about with your breaking it down into steps. A lot of people out there, like they'll teach you information that just kind of keeps you spinning your wheels and not getting the results that you're looking for. And
it's very negative too. Some of the advice, but it sucks people in with that sort of stuff because like it's not like people. The truth is people don't want to change. They really don't. They're lazy. People are lazy. That's why, 6-pack shortcuts did so well is because like, people don't want to work out and actually do the diet and everything that it takes to get a 6-pack. They just want it now. And I think with a lot of the advice, it's geared towards, because when I started, like we had just been coming out of like the pickup realm when like that was all that was available for dating coaching. And then it's like now you get like the red pill and the MG Tau and all of the different, pills and stuff. It's very negative towards women. And I'm not saying that is wrong. Like I actually like the red pill and all that stuff. I don't like MG Tau. I don't know if I can get behind that at all. But with those kinds of things, it brings people in with negativity where it's like, oh, women will, do this to you, they'll do that to you. And yeah, female nature is dark, man. It can get very dark. It's not this cute and cuddly image that you've been brought up to believe it is. And then when guys it comes from the perspective of it's not my fault. It's the woman's fault. And I think that is, it's the negative. People love being absolved of responsibility. You're absolutely right. So that's definitely pulling things in. So I'd say, the stuff that we teach now is like, that's the problematic advice that you have to deal with. I sometimes will get a guy who's been reading like black pill or red pill stuff, and they just have so many negative like feelings towards women. And I'm having to undo all of this negativity to replace them with positivity. And not to say that some of the stuff that they say is not true, but it's a glass half empty truth. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then, so just to finish out what I was saying with it is, then realizing the loops that people were getting stuck in, I started working individually with some of the guys that I guess were my classmates in courses. And I realized I was able to help them get through their barrier in a way that they were not getting from the course material itself.
Yeah.
And then it just kept building. And then I just chose to dive into it. I ended up creating my own men's community. And I've worked with people all the way to the point of like, I've had people fly in and go out. I mean, just on Saturday night, I was out with somebody local and helped him do all types of approaches out of the bar, and he had huge success. So
Which city are you living in?
I'm in Philly.
Oh, you're in Philly. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I love all the different experiences. I love it that everybody has different problems. So every client's a little bit different, and the age ranges as well. Like I've worked with people all the way from I helped a 25-year-old who is still a virgin lose that, all the way up to working with people that are, I think the oldest was 44. So I love the variety. There's just something about it. But yeah, so I've only been doing this for like 3 years, but I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, man. I mean, the truth is, I was posting videos, but I didn't really get serious until like maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But I was helping people. I was helping people like kind of. Some of them I was helping for free. I helped people for free for a long time, and then I was like, I want to get paid for this. So I think that's how that. And then my coaching got better, obviously, after I started getting serious about it. But that's super dope, man. I didn't know. Yeah, how's the scene in Philly?
It's not too bad actually. So where I live is I'm on the west side of Philadelphia, and so there's a town right next to it called Manayunk. And Manayunk is a great place to go out. There's a whole strip of different bars. It's also a college town, so you get a mix of people that are more like coming towards like the 30s range, and then you've got the other college bars too if you want to be younger 20s. So that's fantastic. I don't go into Center City that often, but Center City is great as well. I mean, there's
Sure.
It's a lot better than people make it out to be. It's not the best, I will say that, but it's a lot better than people make it out to be.
Dude, with every city, there's like an equilibrium factor. So, I mean, I honed my skills in San Francisco. San Francisco, to put it in perspective, has the highest male to female ratio in the United States besides San Jose, which is where I was born, by the way. This is the genesis of me doing what I do. It's just dealing with terrible environments for guys and making it work. So yeah, San Francisco's got a big tech industry, and they have a huge gay community. Still a lot of guys there, and honestly, the gay community actually helps because they're not trying to steal your girl. But like, in my opinion, it was still a really tough area to go in. Like the women there, you know, they knew they didn't have to really dress up or like really do a whole lot with themselves, because like there was going to be 4 or 5 guys that were lining up to try, and no matter how mean they were or whatever, there was still going to be guys that were going to go after them. I've noticed a complete shift if I go to different environments. Like if you go to New York or if you go to Miami, they do not act like that, because New York has a huge fashion industry, and as a result, there's actually more women than men there, more professional women that are going out than guys are. And so when I went to New York, even though New York is like, people think that people are assholes there, I actually thought the women were way nicer. I was like, dude, they're actually like talking to me. Like, this is great. You know, in San Francisco, it would be like, you have to deal with a girl being mean to you for like the first 10-15 minutes, and then she'd soften up after a bit. But like, that was the norm. And by the way, this woman wouldn't even be like dressed up. She'd be wearing like t-shirt and sweatpants, and you're like, this is what you're wearing out. Like, I'm better dressed than you, you know. But she didn't have to, because there were a bunch of guys that were going to walk up to her anyway, you know. So that's how I if you can make it work in like tough environments, then you can make it work anywhere. But I found that there was always an equilibrium factor. Like, even though there was those things that I complained about in San Francisco, the fact of the matter is that most of the guys that I was competing against, they're all, you know, programmers, you know, they're all nerds that like don't socialize a whole lot. And so I had a leg up when I came in. You know, I had my social skills all worked out. I had game. I had all this stuff that, you know, I was fun. And a lot of guys that walked up and hung out, they weren't fun. You know, they just had this like serious stoic face on themselves, and you know, they would get pissed off and women didn't like them. You know, like I worked out all of that stuff years ago.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great, and I love what you're saying. Like every environment is different. You got to look at the positives of it. Yes, there might be more guys than girls in San Francisco, but your competition is a lot weaker. So
Yeah.
I love that. That's
100%.
fantastic.
And New York has its downsides too. You know, like New York is great. I coach a lot of clients who are in New York, but for them, it's just like so many people for them to deal with that it's like it's hard for them to like form a real connection with somebody. And so for those kinds of guys, you know, I advocate, you know, okay, are we just going out to bars to pick up women? Is that like what we're doing? Because it's very appealing to do in New York because everyone goes out, everyone drinks, everyone's like going out at night. It's called the city that never sleeps for a reason. So I encourage them to attend more like daytime activities where they can meet people, and those tend to work a little bit better if you want more of a solid connection. Yeah, the nighttime gets a little crazy, but if you want more solid connections, meet people during the day.
Yeah, that's great advice. What are your favorite activities to essentially that you would give a guy advice to try and do to meet women?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to hear your input on this as well too. But like the ones that I do, and this is a big part of the program that I have, where it's managing your schedule. So like you two are probably busy guys. You have shit that you got to do. By the way, can I swear? Is swearing okay?
Yeah, you're good.
I assume so. Okay, cool. Awesome. We can get that out of the way. So yeah, I assume you guys have shit that you got to do. So you're a busy guy, and it's not going to be useful for you to like say, oh, I have to dedicate this many days to do approaches and stuff like that. What you want to do is you want to integrate it in your life. So even if you have an average week where you're just doing things that you normally do, you're encountering women. You know, you have them around you. And so you can like dating is very random. You know, it's not just like approach and then this happened. Like you want to give yourself the opportunity for those kinds of odd or weird things to happen. Very often I will find this happens with a lot of my clients. It's maybe you'll run into a girl or something like that at the supermarket, and then you'll see her later at a party. And then you'll make a connection because it's like that second meeting, you know, you're no longer a stranger anymore. You want to engineer a lot of those kinds of things. So this is what I do. An example of a schedule could be something like this. Busy entrepreneur, you work 10 hours a day or maybe even more. Okay. I always find that for the busy entrepreneur, they always find time to go to the gym every day or 3-4 times a week. Okay. You find an hour and I'm like, well, what do you do when you go to the gym? Well, I put my headphones in and I do my lifts and I'm like, okay, cool. Take the headphones out. Why don't you do a workout class instead? I'm talking like a HIIT class. I'm talking like a or whatever, you know. A HIIT class is good. I find that's a good intermediate because the guys can get a workout and there's a lot of hot girls there, like Barry's Boot Camp, Orange Theory. Those kinds of things are going to be packed full of hot women. So you're going to get some FaceTime with them. You might not pick them up in the gym, but you're going to get FaceTime with them. And so over time, they've been exposed to you. So when you do talk to them, it's a warm approach. So I find the guys that are doing the HIIT class, maybe they do 2 HIIT classes a week, okay? or maybe even just one. Over a number of months, that's gonna pay dividends. And then instead of making coffee at home, they walk to the coffee shop. So they walk to a coffee shop where they might meet somebody. Not every time, but it's very possible that they will. Okay, so you do that every single week. So you're walking to the coffee shop, you're going to the HIIT class. Then on top of that, rather than you eating lunch by yourself, maybe you eat lunch with some colleagues. You go out. That gives you an opportunity to meet somebody, whether it's the waitress or whether you just encounter somebody who's eating next to you. That happens to me all the time. Or even if you go out by yourself, I find that guys that just, take themselves out to dinner and, eat at a restaurant, a lot of times if you're eating at the bar, if you're eating like nearby where there's like a lot of people, like you can meet women that are around you. Like there's plenty of opportunities there. So you do little things every single week and your schedule hasn't really changed that much. You haven't added that much time. Yeah, sure. Making coffee at home might save you 10 minutes, but 10 minutes adding to your schedule for the opportunity to meet somebody, isn't really that big of a deal. And with the HIT class, you're not actually adding any time because you were going to spend that hour working out anyway, but now you're getting FaceTime with the kinds of women that you want to date. Then on top of that, you mixed maybe one night out of the week where you're actually going to go out and go to a daytime event, do something that you would normally do anyway, but make sure that there's women there. And you've crafted a schedule where you literally have 5 or 6 times during the week where you have an opportunity to meet somebody. Let's say only half of the time you meet a woman. That's 3 women a week. That's 12 women a month. That's, in a year, like you're doing, what is that, 36? That's a lot of women that you're meeting every single year. That's like a bunch of women that are in your life now that you didn't actually add any extra time to, or maybe like 10, 15 minutes of extra time to make it happen. So plan out your week in a way that even if you weren't thinking about women, you'd still have opportunities. But the problem is most guys, they don't think about that. They don't think strategically. They think only about, oh, I got to do work. I got to do this. Oh yeah, my dating life. I'll figure that out later, but like, yeah, by the way, I totally messed up the numbers with when I was counting. It's way higher than that. But yeah,
144. But
144. Yeah, there we go. Thank you for giving me the right number so I didn't lie to people, pretend like I don't know math. So anyway, yeah, you'd be meeting a lot of different women. And here's the thing, like it's not about just walking up and approaching and yes or no. If you think about it in those terms, you will fail. So the story that I like to tell guys is this story. So dating is kind of like this. So have you guys heard the story of 2 bulls? Joel, did I tell you the story?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. So there's 2 bulls standing at the top of a hill. And at the bottom of the hill are thousands of cows. And the younger bull looks up at the older bull and he says, hey, let's run down this hill and fuck one of these cows. And the older bull looks down at the younger bull and he says, no, let's walk down and fuck them all. Too many guys are running down that hill, or they think they need to run down that hill. But what happens when a bull runs down the hill? What happens when he runs after a cow? The cow runs away every time. So they disperse. But if you walk, none of them move. And they'll be there.
I
they'll be
love
more available
that.
for you.
That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you want to like, yeah, sure. I teach, pickup stuff and how to approach and all of that. It's my bread and butter. I love it. But at the end of the day, you really have to like come up with a schedule that's going to work for you. Because, going out 3 times a week to approach women exclusively and just do approach, cold approach is not really a good time investment for a lot of busy guys. It's much better that they craft their lifestyle in a way that they can get their work done, but they can also have the opportunity to meet somebody there. And then when you combine this with dating apps too, you optimize your profile. I mean, dude, within 3 to 6 months, like you can drastically change your results.
I really like that, man. And for me personally, I do like delivery gigs. So I'm at the grocery store shopping, and that's where I do all my approaches. So I'm technically getting paid to practice pickup.
You go to Whole Foods,
and
Giorgio's.
Oh, dude, Whole Foods is the GOAT. and Target.
Target's great too. Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like to me, kind of summing up what you said, like you want to find a way to integrate them into your life instead of kind of making them the priority and just going after them, like chasing them, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like that's the whole idea behind this. People say don't chase. But like when people see that, they're like, okay, I'm not going to put in an effort. I'm not going to text any women. No, that's not what they mean by don't chase. Okay. You want to set up your life so that you're able to do the things that you want to do, but also have the opportunity to talk to women. And so that's why every client that I get, I have them write down 10 things that they would enjoy doing, even if nobody else was around them, even if nobody else was doing them. Which of those things can we use and incorporate into your schedule that you can actually not only do, but potentially meet women as well too. So I get a lot of guys who, they put the working out, they put the, I like to just go for a walk and get coffee, or I like to travel, or I like to do all these things. I'm like, okay, let's find ways that we can do that, but actually meet people while we're doing it. So you're doing things that you like already. Number one, fun first, women second. When you use that strategy, your results are going to go up a lot more. You're the most attractive when you're having the most fun and when you're in your element. You're not the best when you're kind of like, bored. If you're doing something that you don't typically enjoy. Most people don't enjoy walking to the mall and approaching 50 women,
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I love that. I mean, it matches exactly what I talk to guys about. I was thinking about it when you were asking, like, well, how do you do it? And I was keeping that in the back of my mind as you were talking. And it's like, I was working with a guy who owns a gym. So he's like always at the gym, and he's got to run this business. And he's like, I just don't have time. I don't have time in the day to meet anybody. I was like, well, do you ever go out to lunch? Do you ever grab a coffee during the day?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a couple times a week. Great. You're going to do one approach every time you do that.
Yeah.
Just integrate it. And dating is supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be, you just got to enjoy it. Everybody thinks of it as like a chore, and it's not supposed to be a chore. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you want to set it up so, like, even if, like, you talk to women, they don't like you, like, you still have a pretty good day. You know, for example, like when I was in San Francisco, like my Saturdays were awesome. I loved my Saturdays. You know, judging by how much I went out, like my Saturday would typically consist of me waking up somewhere around midday. I'd crawl out of bed. I got to get out. So I'd been up till like 3 a.m. partying probably the night before. Probably later, if I'm being honest. And then I would get up, and like around midday, I'd head to this park called Dolores Park. If you ever go to San Francisco, Dolores Park is the best place to go. It's awesome. I love it. They like, people will go out there. They'll set up a blanket. You know, you can get like champagne and stuff, and like play games and stuff like that. So I would always set up a blanket, and then I would just like hit up a few of my friends. Dude, even if nobody showed up, I'd have a fun time at that park, because like the weather's great, the view's great, and you have fun people around you, so you can meet people as well too. So I would go to the park, then after the park I would go to dinner with my friends, and then after the dinner we'd go watch a UFC fight, and then after the UFC fight we'd go out. So like, dude, even if no women are involved there, like that's a fun Saturday. Like I get to spend all of that time either with myself or with my homies. Like, but at each point in time, there was an opportunity to meet people. There was an opportunity to meet people at the park. You know, like there was never a time where I didn't talk to a few different groups of girls or have them come to my blanket, you know, after I've been to Dolores Park for a couple hours. And then same thing too with dinner. There was bunch of times where we went out to dinner. We had a big rowdy group. Like there was groups of people around us that we'd like start chatting with, and some of them they'd come to our table. Then we'd invite people to the fight. And women do not like fights, by the way. Most women don't like MMA fights. There are some that are fans, but just 99% of the women that I talked to were not into it. So if a woman showed up to the UFC fight, it was pretty much a done deal. Like I knew she was really into me, right? Because she was going to put up with watching some sanctioned violence to hang out with me.
Maybe that turned her on.
It could have, but who knows? But maybe we made it more of a social thing. So there's plenty of people hanging out that weren't even watching the fight. And then after that, we'd go out. So there was like a bunch of opportunities for me to meet people. But even if they weren't there, like, dude, that's a great Saturday. So, you know, you want to think about things in terms of win-win and, you know, have fun first. And I think that's a perfect example of it, you know, and you just mentioned it yourself, where it's like, he's going to go out to lunch anyway, like might as well, you know, meet somebody or say hi and, you know, just put himself out there a little bit. You know, if you see somebody's schedule, like you always know that they're making excuses for why they can't do something.
Oh yeah, every time.
You know,
and that's why I love asking those questions, those minute questions. Well, do you ever go out for lunch? Do you ever get a coffee or something during the day? Because you're poking the holes in their excuses, and then they've got no more excuses. They got to do the work.
Right. And I think a lot of times with those guys is they just want to see a return on their investment, because time is the it's the most valuable resource that we as men have. Most valuable resource that most people have in general. You never get it back, no matter how rich you get. So they want to know that, oh, I want the time that I'm putting towards this is going to have a return. And maybe the 5 approaches that they've done in the past, they haven't gotten a return on it. So they think it's not a useful thing to do. But if you incorporate it in your life, then really the opportunities that are coming to you are so frequent that it will eventually bring dividends, and you're not really adding that much time to yourself. And furthermore, this is a super important thing. You know, if I told you that, like, you know, this time that you're putting towards this, you're going to meet a person who's going to motivate you, you're going to meet a person who's gorgeous, who's going to sexually gratify you, and ultimately give you children that will pass on your genes for the rest of your time on this planet and their time on this planet, then yeah, you'd probably want to put at least 10 minutes you know, every couple of days to making an effort to talk to somebody, you know, about this. Like that's a huge return on the investment. It's just they're not seeing the immediate benefits of it, and so they tend to think, oh, it's not worth it. But in reality, like, you know, when you're doing something, anything that's worth doing is going to be hard doing. And, you know, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's absolutely achievable, and it's straightforward if you plan your week correctly and you set yourself up to win.
And that's great advice for guys in the beginning, because getting through that first 100 approaches, it just seems like a huge daunting task. But
Yeah.
what
And then
my
people,
mentor told
they
me,
do a few of them and they're like, oh, this is a waste of time, right?
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they don't see they have to put the work in. And like what I've been learning is it's going to take like probably 1,000 approaches to get really comfortable with it.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely. I mean,
that's a lot of approaches. Yeah.
when I did my 1,000, like, dude, I was going out like, from age 22 to 26, maybe, I was going out like at least 4 times a week, 4 or 5,
Jeez.
and so like I approached a lot of women during that time. I slept with a lot of women during that time. So I honed my skills pretty well. So like when I talk about like the example of the practical approaching system, like, my numbers are pretty good, like I typically will approach people that I know it has a decent chance of success. But for me, because I'm stupid and I take a long time to learn stuff, like I needed like to approach thousands before I understood, what somebody looked like that was ready for a conversation. Because before I would just like bother people and interrupt people and, wouldn't go anywhere. And I learned over time just by sheer brute force that, okay, don't approach them when they're doing X, Y, Z, approach them when they're, more open and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I had the same strategy as well.
Nice. I had a question for both of you guys actually, and it plays off this one. How long did it take you guys to get good with women? From like the day you started to when you're like, okay, this is finally yielding those dividends that I've been wanting.
Huds, do you want to answer that first? I mean, I have an answer, but
yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll answer myself, my personal journey. So with me, growing up, it wasn't until closer to senior year of high school and then going into college that anything with women was anything at all. Like every single Friday night, I would look forward to coming home and playing Halo and Call of Duty and video games like that, and just doing that all night and all weekend long. I looked at myself and I was like, why can't I get a girlfriend? Why do like other guys, why are they successful with this? Like what I want that. And so there was kind of like a switch that went off in my head. I guess it was more senior year going into the summer before college, where I just wanted to break out. My style changed, cleaned things up, got more attractive. And I started going out and partying, going to concerts, all types of different stuff. And I really started to rev it up because I wanted to get girls. And I also wanted to have that social acumen that I could get the girls, the attractive ones, the ones that I really wanted. So then when I went to school, I went to Penn State. I became the social chair of my fraternity, and I was forced to and it was the pressure I put on myself. I'm supposed to be, as the social chair of the fraternity, I'm supposed to be probably the guy in the fraternity who's best with the women because I need to be scheduling the parties and getting the girls there.
Yeah.
So I really just like challenged myself in that way. And I would say that once that started rolling, it didn't take long at all. Like I'm at the point now where it is so easy for me to get the attraction of a girl. It's like disgusting. Like my girlfriend was out with me when I was helping my client do approaches on Saturday night, and I did some warm-ups before I sometimes handed off a girl to him, just because I wanted to show him like kind of what it looks like and get him in the flow. Dude, it is so stupid. It is so stupid easy once you get to that point. Like I said before, you can put a gun to my head and say you need to go pick up a girl and like get a girl in an hour. I could do it in sweatpants. It's so simple. So I would say it probably took me around 2-3 years of just that period of my life, and then it's just gotten better and better and better ever since.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. That's a great story, Ed. So I mean, I would agree. Probably like 2 years for me before I started to feel like I was good at it. And then you can always improve. There's always room for improvement for everybody, no matter what stage you are. You can always improve yourself and be a more attractive or be more charismatic or be a more, stable and secure guy, and, for me, it was like different stages. And like, I was just focusing on picking up girls. And then I was like, okay, well, after the stage of picking up, like, you got to be someone that they want to date for a while. Like you got to work on that. And in relationships, there was a lot of things that I had to work on as well too. And yeah, there's just like different stages of, you know, what you want to improve. But for me, it was 2 years. But dude, I don't think it takes 2 years. I think if you have the right, you know, strategy and, you know, you have someone who's giving you the step-by-step process, I think 6 months, 3 to 6 months is actually pretty good. A typical time for my program is like around 3 months, because that's when guys can start to see results. And that's how long it takes. Like, you know, I've read a lot of material. There's differing accounts and with my own experience about how long it takes to build a habit. But I think people generally agree it takes around 2.5 months to do that. So we spend the first month, you know, ironing out what we're going to do. And then the next 2 months we spend ironing out those habits. So it sticks with you.
I want to give that my stamp of approval as well. I believe that with the right system in place, it should take no more than 6 months to become really good at picking up chicks.
Yeah.
Like truly. And a lot of people don't understand that because they think it's like they'll look at some guys like, oh, he's just a natural or this, that, the third. And it's like, no, like it's actually is a lot more simple than we make it out to be.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of guys who are natural, they tend to rely on their looks a lot too. I found, but some of them just, you know, some of them just got it, you know, they've been spitting games since they were young. I think with a lot of those guys too, a lot of the naturals that I met or learned from, they didn't have a great childhood. Their parents weren't around all the time. So they had to figure out how to get people to like them at a young age. My parents were great, so I didn't have that luxury, I say in quotation marks, because obviously I'm sure they're still dealing with the pain from that. But
I was baby too. So I go out there and I treat the women like my mom. They're
they run away. Did you have a lot of sisters too? Sometimes people with sisters, they have trouble.
I had one sister and she was, sorry, Hannah, but she was kind of a brat. So
That's funny.
This is great news because I'm a year into it. I've done it throughout different stages, and I run into the block where I'm like, dude, I should be like Hudson, the single guy, right? It's like, no, man, you're in the beginning stages. And I did have success right at the beginning. So I do agree with you guys that you can, with the right systems, have success immediately. But what's happened is that stuff started to change. Like the stuff that I did 3 months ago, 6 months ago, doesn't work anymore. And I talked about this with my coach last night, because I'm like, man, like I'm going up to the girls, I'm saying similar things, and they're just dipping a lot sooner. And he's like, yeah, it's because like you're not the excited puppy anymore. You go in, you're like, I want to have sex with you. That's like my energy.
Yeah. Dude, that happens to a lot of guys too. Like dating coaches, I notice if they start sucking, it's because they think they can skip the fundamentals.
Yep. Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elaborate more, please.
No one can skip the. I'm sure Heads can talk about this too, but it's like, you know, that happened to me a few times. Like when I was like I think it was back in the day, I was like, you know, I can just skip. I just be able to walk up and get a girl to come home and have sex with me. But like that happens some of the time, but it's like most of the time it doesn't, you know. Most of the time she's not ready. For most women, it's gradual. Like it takes time for them to do it. So
that's why they call it the mating dance.
Yeah.
Not the mating sprint.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I just skipped a bunch of steps, and I was like literally just walking up and, you know, thinking that my aura was going to get women to come home with me. But in reality, if you just do that, you know, you're really just relying on your looks. And even with your looks, it's still like it's still not enough for most women. Like, you know, 90% of women are still going to give you a no. So yeah, you got to remember the principles and the fundamentals. And sometimes you don't want to do them. You want to skip steps. And you can't. No one's above it.
No. I think one thing you guys are saying today that's really standing out, especially for guys watching, take note, is to have fun with it. Like make sure your life's enjoyable. And sharing my example here, I think that's why maybe I've been struggling, because it's boring now. So I don't have that same spark I did at the beginning where it's like, this is new, this is fun. My eyes are lit up. I'm like, here we go again. So I know now going forward, I have to find a way to incorporate more fun into my life and then incorporate the women, because I have been going out and treating it like a chore.
Do you have hobbies, Joel?
Yeah. Yep.
What kind of hobbies you got?
YouTube live streams with my homies.
YouTube live streams. Okay.
Great place to pick up girls.
You never know, man. They
And,
might be getting on the live and you can spit some game on there. But
well,
what
I
else? What else?
actually, one thing I do want to say on YouTube, like doing that, if you hop on some panel shows, like a girls panel show, I've done this before. I've gotten followers and fangirls from going on different things like that. So, I mean, hey, it's possible.
Yeah,
It's possible.
absolutely.
There's hope.
Yeah, no, you can definitely. Yeah. What else?
Basketball as well.
Sure.
Usually a very male-centered thing. Golf, usually male-centered. So maybe the got to go out and find some hobbies where women are involved. That might be a
sure.
good,
I mean, like,
a good plan.
you know, I see a bunch of women hanging out. You do like a golf course?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. You ever go to Top Golf?
Something similar. Yeah, I was there the other night actually.
Okay,
So
were
that's a
the
great
women
idea,
there?
yeah. There's a lot of teenage girls there. That the Top Golf we have in my town, it's like high schoolers usually go.
Really?
So there's some
so odd.
moms and some like 17-year-olds. I'm like, I'll stay back. I'll stay back from that.
The Top Golf that we have here in Austin, lot of women are there. Lot of women are there. Super easy to meet people. I used to have you know, kind of like we call them container events where, you know, if you know a bunch of women who are like kind of, you know, on the fence with you or whatever, or, you know, just people that you know, you get a group together and you invite a bunch of them to go to an activity. Top Golf was one of the things that we did. Top Golf was great, you know,
Sweet.
especially if you can teach, if you're good at golf and you can teach her how to swing, you know, like that's a great in for you there. You can definitely demonstrate some masculine qualities by teaching her something. So yeah, I think golf is actually that could work for you, you know. There's other things too. I'm sure you have other hobbies that maybe you're a little, you don't think could work, but I find that if you do the things that you like, there's usually a way. Like even with basketball, they might not want to play basketball, but you might be able to do basketball in an area where maybe there's other games going on that women are doing as well. So yeah, just try and think a little strategically about these hobbies that you have, because I see this every time with even guys that are motivated like yourself. If you're not doing fun things and incorporating women into them, you'll give up. It's okay to maybe do like one of them a week or something like that, where you're like, okay, I'm just going to go out and like, you know, talk to women. But if the fun isn't there, then your enthusiasm will die. And that excited look that you had, yeah, it goes away for everybody, you know, me included. It happened to me as well. You know, when I started getting kind of like jaded about the whole thing and like not really like interested, and, you know, I would go out and like I had this like blasé look on my face all the time, and like no surprise, my results with women were awful. They were terrible. So learning how to have fun again was like a big step for me, because it was something that I had never actually built up. The fun for me was like going out and getting the girls, but when that in of itself wasn't enough, I had to have other things, you know, come in to help me out. So yeah,
totally.
Yeah, find a way to incorporate it in. I mean, you're a smart guy. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll get it done. I'm moving to Poland coming up.
Poland
as well. Yep.
What are you doing there?
Quite the
I'm
random
actually
move.
Yeah. I'm actually going to practice pickup and do dating and stuff, because here it's a hot spot, and it's better for Asian guys. So yeah, we'll find some hobbies in Poland, and definitely we'll work on having fun for sure.
Good. Yeah, I hear it's good. People speak English there?
They do, thankfully. Yeah.
Okay. Dude, the hot spot, if you wanted to get like hot girls, but you have a leg up, was like historically it was Ukraine before the war happened.
Yeah.
Ukraine was like the spot to go, because like this is not the only war that's happened. There's been a lot of wars, so like a lot of the male population has been like killed off or disabled. So like, you know, you walk in as like a Westerner from like a richer country and you're a guy, like it's just a great area to be. You know, post-war torn areas are the best areas for men to go in if they want easy access to women who are very much looking for a guy to help them out, you know.
Boys, trip to Iraq. Boys trip.
Yeah, boys trip.
Boys
Let's
trip
go
to
do
Ukraine.
pickup in Iraq.
Let's see where the latest bombing is. Don't do this. We're joking. Anybody watching
Yeah,
this,
this is a
comedy.
complete joke.
Don't cancel us, please.
Well, what
But yeah.
is your opinion on that, Lloyd? For guys, because I know this was like a trending topic recently, passport bros and like
Oh, the
people
passport
going,
bros thing?
yeah.
Good
Like,
question.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine, dude. You know, if you want to meet a girl who like meets your needs, like go wherever you feel like is going to be the best thing for you. Ain't no shame in that. For me personally, I speak Spanish. Not like a native speaker, but I speak it enough that I can understand. My mom's Puerto Rican and stuff, so I can go to Colombia and stuff like that, and meet a lot of gorgeous women that are going to be a lot less of a hassle than an American woman. I'm just going to be real, American women have more expectations, they have more wants and needs, and they generally like want it and give less, straight up. And they think the things that are valuable are not actually that valuable. I don't care that they are an executive in a tech company. That actually could be a detriment, because then she's spending less time working on us, and she's got to work late. And if we have kids and stuff, like am I going to be the one who watches them? Like that presents a problem and a challenge. And so it's not actually a plus. So I definitely understand the appeal of passport bros and doing their thing. And if you want to do it, all the power to you. Me personally, I want someone who like is a little bit more relatable, me and my girlfriend were hanging out in the car and like a song came on, that we used to listen to when we were younger. It's like little things like that you won't get from someone that you picked up from Ukraine or Colombia or, any of those places. Cause like, they weren't listening to E40 when they were kids.
There you go.
No Blink 182 for the
no Blink 182. All the material that I have for jokes and things that we can chat about, like that goes out the window. I have to explain everything now. Which if for some people that's a small thing. And like, look, dude, I think I could find someone in those areas too, and just be happy as well. But I think I could also be happy with an American girl. It's just it is harder. You're gonna have to work on yourself a little bit more and do it. So if you're prepared to put in the work, I think you can get a great girl anywhere. But yeah, there's positives and there's negatives to it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. Western women do have higher expectations, especially now, and because they don't need money from a guy anymore, they can make their own. So
they can make their own.
Yeah, and so in these other countries, they're more still dependent on the man to provide. So they do have that more traditional value system. And I'm with you guys. Like, that's why I'm still gotten into approaches. Like, I'm not going to use it as an excuse not to keep practicing. At the same time, I know, like, I'm in a college all white town in northern Wisconsin, or not northern.
Where are you? You're in Madison?
US. Madison, yep.
You're in Madison.
So it's super liberal, super progressive, a lot of baggy jeans. And so, a lot of feminine guys too. So that's kind of what the girls, they want a guy that they can that they can lead, right? And so there's this dissonance.
You sure about that?
Well, that could be my own block. Maybe not, but the relationships I see that are out and about, oftentimes it's like, she's telling him what to do, and he's just like kind of pushing the cart around. But
is she happy?
Yeah, exactly.
No, not at all. Probably not at all. I'm not saying that's
I don't know. I don't know any woman who bosses their guy around that's happy.
Oh, totally. And
not a single one.
Yeah.
Not a single one. But yeah, it makes sense that because you see them with them. And I think, as they get older, they'll kind of grow out of that and realize that those guys are, not the right ones for them. I definitely think there's an opportunity for you there to still demonstrate the qualities that biologically women are drawn to. And you can still do all that other stuff too. Like every woman that I've dated or been in a relationship with, I think there's maybe been like one or two women that I can think of that were leaning to the right. Dude, I was in San Francisco. Like every woman that I dated was like a liberal feminist. That's but point, like, and there's one woman who I dated who was like, she would start getting into whole this like, women have it rough kind of thing, and I would start to do this. You know what this is?
The violin.
It's the world's tiniest violin. and like super mean, right? Super mean, not empathetic at all. She would hit me and hate me, but she still stayed with me because I embodied the traits that she found attractive, you know, and sometimes we'd have some angry sex after that. And I'm not saying that this is a way to form, I do not do this in my relationship now, guys. Be empathetic to somebody's story. But you have to understand is like there are things that biologically people are going to be drawn to. So you have to embody those qualities. Right. And if you do both, that's the best thing. Now I do both. Now I'm empathetic and I embody the masculine qualities as well. I just knew I could get away with it at that point. So I actually kind of mean. But yeah, I definitely think that even if women they say that they're drawn to that because their women's studies class tells them to, they'll realize that, you know, what they truly desire is not that. And if you can embody both of those things, yeah, you'll be a leg up on them. I mean, most of these college guys have no idea how to date a girl. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Zero.
Well, most guys in general have no idea how to date a girl.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
100.
I mean, I think about how I was when I was 18. Dude, when I was 18, I was I mean, like I've hopefully told you some stories that will let you know that I was like probably not the nicest person, but like I think I was like just a straight up menace to society when I was 18. I mean, you're so horny at that age and you suck with women so badly that it's just you have all this pent up rage that needs to be unleashed on society, you know? And you know, it's just a danger to everybody. So yeah, I almost think that we should I have some theories about how to solve that problem, but I'm not sure if anyone's going to listen.
We'll save that to another podcast. Yeah,
that'll be for another podcast.
Yeah.
That'll be the After Hours podcast where I solve those problems.
Hell yeah. I've seen you on Instagram too. Like I could tell you have that aggression because you do jujitsu, right? Or
I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I broke my ribs. So I've been out for a while, but I'll be back soon.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff. You got to get that aggression out somehow, or else you go crazy.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think all men have that. You know, there's that saying where it's you know, most men live lives of quiet desperation. I think it's super true. You know, and that quote's been around for a while. It's not just with the modern day. Yeah, I think a lot of men live lives of quiet desperation. Maybe they got a family, or maybe they have expectations on them, or maybe they just live in a world where that's like doesn't really understand their wants and needs, and their wants and needs are, you know, considered to be bad and, you know, shunned, and so they're not allowed to engage with them or pursue them. It's a tough existence, and you know, once you break from the mold and stop listening to those messages and listen to more positive ones that are actually going to make you happy, then I think that's when people start to realize. But normally the negative voice, I think, is enticing to men. I think that's why the red pill stuff is pretty popular. And then they, you know, hopefully they learn to be more positive after that.
100%. I've been red pilling it up, and I've learned that I have to stop listening to red pill because it just makes me hate women. And you had a video on that, Lloyd, too, where you were really angry at women for a while, and that was a phase you went through. And it made me think, like, yeah. And I hang out with you two, you and Huds, and you guys are both so positive and you're full of energy. And it's like I feel better after that. I don't feel like the world. It's like,
well, I can definitely be negative sometimes. But it's just you have to look at the practicality behind it. You know, is like is looking at it as a glass half full. Is that going to really help you out? The answer is no. I don't know anyone who like is super negative about women and hates them that does well with them. I know zero guys that do well with women that actively bash them all the time. And so that's why when I see Rollo Tomasi and some of these guys, you know, they get up there and they talk. It's I think maybe at one point in time, like, you know, they did well, but I think a lot of the material that they cover now is rooted in this inner rage, you know, towards women. And I've luckily had enough positive, I'm sure Huds has had enough positive experiences that you don't feel that anymore. It's not yeah, it's not good.
I think one of the worst things is some of the stuff that is out there. So for me, I personally love the Fresh and Fit podcast. I know those guys personally. I love it because it's just funny to me. But that's it. It's funny to me. I view it as a comedy show. I don't view it as practical advice. But other guys and younger guys who are looking for some of the information, they cling to it. They think all girls are 304s and I can cheat on my girl and she should just accept it, and just all this type of garbage that I think is it's kind of detrimental for people that don't see, to me, it's comical, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of people take it as like scripture, and that's not good.
Dude, it's funny. Like podcasts like that, like I feel bad legitimately for the women that they have on there that they just kind of like she's some
They just
OnlyFans,
bully.
you know, she just they bring some OnlyFans chick on there who's like obviously her view of the world is like silly, and then they expose her on there and they make her feel bad and like do we really have to do all that and make this poor woman feel so terrible? But also at the same time too, you know, is this counteracting all the nonsense that they've been learning in their feminist studies class that has also been disempowering them too? Like I think his book was Myron's book called Women Deserve Less.
Why women deserve less,
dude. Like when I read the title of that book, like I could not stop laughing. Like I thought it was hilarious because it's like, you know, can you imagine somebody handing that out after like a women's studies class or something? Just hey, here you go. You know, like I thought it was hilarious because it's like, you know, we've had this movement that I think is just like made. And by the way, not all feminism is bad. Most of the women that I've dated are feminists, but like to a certain point where, you know, like it's come to the level where it's become anti-men and it's become no matter what women do is good. And at the same time, like once a movement has hit its like apex where it's like, okay, we're, you know, how much farther are we going to take this, right?
Mm-hmm.
In every revolution, the first thing that you do once the revolution is over is you kill or you get rid of all of the revolutionaries that weren't in your party or weren't on your team because they don't know how to stop. A revolutionary always wants to start a revolution. And so I think we're at a point where like with the feminists where it's like the people that they've made it their life's work to push and motivate and support and you know, push women's issues to the forefront and always support them. At what point in time are they going to say, you know what, I think we're pretty good right now, we can stop the protesting? They're never going to say that ever. So, you know, at a certain point you have to stop listening to them. So yeah, it's a tough one with that, and I don't know where the line is.
Yeah, it's just a time. People just starting to realize, like, get the knowledge they need and then step away and realize, okay, I got to put this into action or change my own beliefs. Because I mean, you're so right. And like when I watch a lot of that content, Fresh and Fit in particular, or like Rich Cooper, which is kind of how I met Huds, through Rich Cooper, so it's a win. But
oh, nice.
It's like I'll look for that in the real world. Like that's what my eyes will be looking towards, like the masculine women with the feminine. And there's probably tons of feminine women in Madison that I just can't see because I'm like, they're all masculine, right? So I think I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah. Well, what happens, I think, when people are younger, the very masculine guys that have tons of options with women, it's really tough to get them into a relationship because they have so many options and so many women are available for them. As they get older, they'll probably be more favor relationships. But, you know, in college, you know, I think a lot of the relationships that you see is like that feminine guy who that's the only way he can kind of compete with that kind of guy, because he's not going to work on his masculinity, but he can be there for her and like support her in kind of this like platonic way. And then, you know, hopefully at some point he gets laid, you know, like that strategy is a better strategy in his mind than trying to compete with Chad from Kappa Phi Sigma Beta Lambda. Yeah, so like it's the only way that he can compete. But, you know, is it a happy relationship for her? No, dude. Like when I was in college, bro, I can't remember this story. I remember I was seeing this girl in college. I got a little bit of success in my senior year. We went to Vegas, and this girl, we had a whole penthouse suite at the Bellagio, and I'm like, how did we get this hotel? And one of the girls there, she's like really hot, like kind of like model chick. She knew this rich guy who had been like hitting her up, pay for the whole thing, didn't even show up, right? So like we got this whole suite to ourselves. Awesome, right? And then this other guy showed up, and I'm like, who is this guy? He's kind of like this, you know, like he was a little bit more feminine, you know, he was a little bit more insecure and nervous, but he was a nice guy. But how else do I put it? And I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm Lloyd. And he goes, oh, hey, I'm her boyfriend. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we've been together since high school. I'm like, oh, okay. So guess how the weekend went? So the weekend went like this. We go
Cook
out
it
the
up.
first night, she's flirting with every other guy. I think she forgot where he was. Leaves with another dude. And then she comes back later on and he's all crying and he's like moaning about it. And he's talking to everyone about it like for a day. And then he's like, you know what? I'm fed up. And he leaves. He leaves the second day. We were there for like 3.5 days. So he comes back at the end of the third day and is like telling everybody how he's like, you know what? Like, I love her. Like, I'm going to try and make things work. She could not have cared less. But but they're still boyfriend and girlfriend. They're still boyfriend and girlfriend, right? Like, I'm sure he accompanied her to the grocery store at some point. I'm sure you might have seen them together. Did she fuck that dude on the trip? No, she fucked another guy and had another, millionaire dude paying for her trip who she's probably going to fuck at some point. Right. So like, yeah, it's like she like with I think with women maybe at that age, the guy who they want, they can't get them to stick around. So they might hook up with them, but like they'll stay and like spend a lot of their time with someone who's like, the friend who I guess they might consider to be their boyfriend. I don't know how often that's happening, but I've seen it a lot of times that, when I see a relationship like that, I'm like,
I think it's much more frequent than people actually think. I mean, I always think about this. I come across this one girl on Instagram here and there, and I had a crush on her for a while at school, and then sophomore year we were on spring break, and we ended up making out in the pool, which was like to me was it's like finally
like the greatest moment of your life. Yes, it's all been leading to this.
but she has been dating this guy since high school, and they just got married this year.
Yeah.
And I just like, I see all the photos and everything else, and I know that they were together at that time. And I'm just like, if we just did that, like, what else was she doing? Like, she was probably stepping out on him throughout all of college and just keeping him around for the security or just to look good to the friends. I don't know. But I could never wrap my head around that one. And especially seeing them get married just this year, I'm just like, oh my God.
There's some chicks out there that like they have to have a boyfriend, even if they're not super attracted to him.
Totally.
And that's something that they got to work out. Like, I think a lot of women will work it out at some point, but some of them don't. Some of them never get, I know women who like, they will stay on the shelf for maybe a week and you think, oh, well, that's their hot commodity. Like, everybody wants them. It's like, no, they monkey branch. They can't be alone. And so the decisions that they make with the boyfriends that they choose are all predicated on the fact that I cannot be alone. It's not, hey, I'm going to accurately assess if this guy is going to be a long-term fit or if I'm actually legitimately attracted to this guy. What they're running from is they're running from loneliness. They're running from like this, the fear of not having a boyfriend. And so they have to choose one, and that kind of thing. Yeah, there'll be a nice guy who will stick around for them. And then I think with those women, they can get a little bit manipulative too, because obviously they're not sexually satisfied with them. So yeah, it can get bad.
No, that's definitely
like codependency in a nutshell right there.
Exactly.
I go to a lot of support groups for that. And it's the mass majority of people that are in there are women like 35 plus in their 40s.
Yeah.
And they
so here you go, Joel. We're talking about activities where you can meet women. You can just pick up girls from this group.
Yeah, go to the support group, dude.
The broken, the better. Let's go.
That sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
It would go against the principles of the group, but we can overlook that.
No, this is what you do. This is what you do. You be friends with them, and then you hook up with their friends.
Oh, huge.
Yeah. So that's what the container event is all about. That's what the container event is all about. So like, okay, this is an example of what you could do. Next meeting, you're chatting with a few of the people that you know around there. Once you get talking about what you're up to during the weekend, that's when you can start inviting them to stuff. And you can be like, hey, a couple of my friends, like, we're going to do, have you ever gone to Top Golf? And they're like, oh, no, I haven't. I'm like, it's super fun. I'll teach you how to drive, a shot, and you can bring some of your friends, and, we'll all hang out. It'll be great. So then they show up with two of their friends, and then that's two friends that you have available for you. If she's good looking, she probably hangs out with women that are good looking. I mean, she might not. You might get disappointed, but, higher likelihood that that's going to happen. So, when you go to those events and you bring people there, like, the container event is really where everybody gets to meet, and then you can make the moves there, but you don't do it in the support group. You want to be a little bit more strategic about it.
No. Yes, absolutely. They call it 13th stepping. So there's the 12 steps, obviously. They call it 13th steps because some guys will come in and they'll prey on the ones that are like brand new to the group.
Oh,
they're,
yeah.
like, super vulnerable.
That is terrible.
Yeah, they do it because it works.
I know people that do that in AA and whatever, the Sex Anonymous one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
No, but what he's saying, I really, really like, and I know that they say like men and women can't be friends. Dude, that is such a misconception. When you develop friendships with women, like, I will say that there's always one party who is attracted to the other, whether it be the guy or the girl.
Mm-hmm.
But if you develop these friendships with women that find you attractive and want to hang out with you, yes, that avenue to their friends is absolutely fantastic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that enough. And I think that's such a misconception that is put out there. And it wasn't until Michael Sartain started really pushing that whole social proof thing and like being friends with a lot of girls that it became more mainstream, because that kind of went against a lot of like the red pill tenets and stuff people were pushing out.
Yeah. So I actually have a business partner. His name's Adam Lyons. He was like back in the day, like one of the pickup guys. He was one of the first people that like really pushed this on the web, where it was like he had this, like, he was all about social circle and like rolling into the club with like 50 to 100 women. You would do that sometimes, and just that massive social proof that he had, the pre-selection, was like a huge help, and he would just use it for hooking up. But you can absolutely do this. Every single, I do surveys for my clients. Every single survey I do, all of them say, what do you think is the best way to meet high quality women? The majority of them will say through friends. Okay. They always say through friends, and they're right, but none of them do it. So like, or they don't do it in the right way. So people instinctively know this, but I think with a lot of people, they have limiting beliefs around it, and the truth is like with my female friends, there is attraction going on. I'm a man, she's a woman. Like, it's going to happen, just like I've been working on myself. And so the way that I act is going to come off in a way that like a lot of women are going to find attractive, and she might be one of them. But here's the thing, we're adults, and when you have a beneficial relationship with somebody where you guys are benefiting off of a friendship as opposed to a sexual relationship, and if you did do this sexual relationship, it would actually ruin the friendship that you have going on and the benefits that you guys are getting from each other, you don't do it. Like you have a choice, and I don't care what anybody says. There have been plenty of women where either they dated my buddy for a while or whatever it is that I would never hook up with. But if they hadn't done that, I absolutely would. It's like my choice. I choose not to. You can, it is possible. And like, obviously you might not want to put yourself in like situations where that could go down. So you might want, if you feel like it's too strong, then you just stay in groups and, you don't go have as much one-on-one time. But you can make it work. All friendships and relationships, they are complicated. They're not, it's not straightforward yes or no. Different things can happen, and it can happen in a million different combinations. And you don't want to reduce your reach by saying that I'm not going to make friends with any woman. I think that would be a silly thing to do.
100%. And that's why I think it's like so detrimental that a lot of people were putting that out for a while. I think it's brilliant. That's one thing that I really, really wish I did a better job at in college. I did do a good job with it because I had to as social chair. So having to be friends with all the other sorority social chairs and like a lot of the social chairs do hook up, so I did hook up with some of them, but but that's the thing, is like you can't piss them off. Like you can mess it up by doing that, actually having the sexual encounter with them.
Yeah.
Or
But
the
I really wish
pledges.
I really wish
Got
I built that out even more, because it was so powerful seeing the guys that did do that, and how, oh man, they had the best time in the world in college.
Yeah. That's what I tell all my guys in college. I'm like, dude, girls only hook up with guys they know. So just be friends with everybody. Like your game, all that stuff. Like, yeah, it matters a little bit, but not that much, dude. Honestly, just be popular, and like girls will just want to hook up with you because they know your name. So like,
Oh
yeah, it helps a
dude,
lot.
I used to have girls from certain sororities that we would not social with, just want to fuck because they knew I was the social chair, and we could schedule something then.
Of course they did. Yeah, and here's the thing, going back to the friendship thing, it's like you have a huge benefit by being friends with the other social chair and the other sorority. Are you gonna ruin that by like going all in and like hooking up and then it ending badly with them? It's like you would never do that, because like and obviously you hooked up and it was fine, but like in a way where like you would risk it, like you're not sure, or you would really go for it when the time wasn't there, or she didn't really come to you that much. Like you want to make sure that you have the benefits of the friendship that you have currently, because they far outweigh the benefits of you hooking up with her temporarily if it was going to ruin it. It's
Right.
like I have female friends, or like they were back in San Francisco especially, where we would go out and I would show up and there'd be like 5 hot girls. Why on earth would I hook up with a friend that consistently brings 5 hot girls to every social event that I do and ruin the future that I could have with her, or with those friends that she's bringing? It wouldn't make sense. It'd be a stupid move. So, yeah, absolutely. Like you have to think about what works for your life and the benefit that you two are getting. And she was getting a benefit from me because I was inviting her to the events and I was a fun guy. And, I'd probably have guys who her friends could hook up with as well too. Like we both had a very beneficial relationship between the two of us that would have absolutely been ruined if we started having sex with each other.
Wow. And a lot of guys probably won't think that. Like they'll be like, well, I'm friends with her. I want to hook up with her because we already have this connection. They won't even think about the other girl she's bringing in.
Yes. That's that scarcity mentality where it's like, I got to get what I have now rather than building it up. That's running down the hill right there. That's running down the hill. Yeah.
That's
cool.
Huge.
All right, you guys. Are we good on time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that. I think this is a great discussion. Potentially we can do something else again in the future, but I think we should probably wrap. Again, thank you so much for this. Like this was an amazing talk. As I said, I am one of your OGs. I had been watching this for so long. And I did actually buy your course. I don't know if I ever went through it because I don't need to, but I did buy your course to support you.
Well, if you ever want to, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a great course. It has a lot of great things there, infield footage of all the stuff that I'd mentioned. Yeah, but I prefer to work with people personally. That way I can really help them out. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive than the course, but when you're dealing with people that need that extra push or need that key piece of advice at that right time, that's the kind of support that I can provide, and I can't do it in a course.
Yeah. And guys, that's how I met Lloyd. Is I hit him up for a coaching session, and unfortunately I couldn't afford it. But in that initial call, he gave me like some advice that just completely changed my life and got me into dating, honestly. So thank you as well. You're just like, yeah, dude, you live a cool life, and like no one ever told me that. I was like, oh wow, sweet.
Yeah, absolutely, you do, Joel. And it was great talking to you guys. Do you mind if I plug my stuff real quick? And
That's what I was just going to ask you to do. Go ahead.
Cool. All right, guys. For anybody watching, my name is Lloyd Dixon. I am not the single guy, but the single guy is my channel and my brand. So if you want to check me out on YouTube, it's the single guy, one word. And if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's a.single.guy. And if you're looking for any help with some of this stuff, the best way to get help from me personally, if you're looking for coaching, is to fill out one of my coaching forms. If you fill it out and the information looks good, I'll be happy to meet with you. And also too, if you're just looking for some help, you can DM me on Instagram and a member of my team will pick it up and yeah, if everything looks good, we'll chat. So I'd love to meet you and love to help you out.
Good stuff.
Awesome,
Well, thank
guys.
you,
Yeah.
everybody. We're going to be back this week with another episode, and we're going to have some exciting guests in the future. So this is just going to keep building. Peace out.
Cool. Thanks, you guys. When I start my podcast, I'll be sure to have you on. So hopefully that'll get started in the next couple of months.
Sounds
Sweet.
good.
Thanks, man.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.